Hello and welcome to the What Women Want Today podcast. You might be asking yourself right about now, well, what do women want? I mean, we're pretty complex creatures, right? Well, I think we want it all, and I'm here to explore it with you. My name is Terry Kellums. I'm your host. Go grab your favorite beverage. I've already got my glass of wine, and let's get started. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the What Women Want Today podcast. This is your host, Terry Kellums. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I'm happy to have Kuhn with me today. Jean is an entrepreneur. She has been in business since 2006 as a business strategist. She has had a lot of success. I know she's going to give us some really great information. Jean, I'm so excited to have you with me today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Terry. Nice. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
By the way, I have been self-employed since 1985.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah. 37 years of not having a job, right?
That's nice. Because yeah, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right?
Exactly.
So Jean, what do you think was the catalyst for you to kind of say, skip you corporate world, I'm going to do my own thing here?
It started, actually, I became self-employed on April 29th, 1985 at 8:52 p.m. because that's when the nurse put that first baby in my arms, and I knew I was not going back to a job I hated. I was going to just become an entrepreneur, figure it all out. We would probably be retired in our mid-30s, right? And have it all figured out and all done and, live the happy-go-lucky life, right? Yeah, 28 years later, right? I'm still trying to figure it all out. Yeah.
There you go. I bet so many women listening can relate to what you just said, but not every woman has all of the tools that they need to do what you've done. So what advice would you give a woman out there of any age that's thinking about leaving the corporate world or is maybe considering, I don't know if I have a lot of really young women listeners, but the woman who's like, you know what, I want to dedicate more time to my family and I think I can do that and better serve my family and my own needs by, being an entrepreneur. What advice might you have for that person listening?
I would say if you were going to do that, first of all, do it. But if do it because you will never get rich really working for someone else, right?
Right.
But if you're going to do it, especially let's say you're over 40, 45-ish, hire a mentor, right? Somebody who can help you get there faster because I didn't have a mentor and it took me 28 years to even start to have the success that I wanted on April 29th, 1985.
Wow. Yeah. So I have some interesting statistics and I think they are, they're almost like a celebratory thing. I'm going to say it that way. Okay, let's see. So 12.3 million women-owned businesses are currently operational. 90.3 of women own micro businesses. And I didn't quite understand how they had that worded. 90.3% of women own micro businesses more frequently than men. So do you know what a micro business is, Jean? Can we put some context?
I'm not really familiar with that terminology, but I would imagine a micro business might be something like a network marketing product.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense.
I'm just guessing.
Yeah. On average, women's companies grow by 84% compared to men-owned businesses that grow by 78%. And this is interesting. 1,821 new businesses were started every day last year. And 64% of those businesses were started by women of color.
Oh, that is it. I'm not surprised. I mean, I think first of all, I think that's an amazing statistic because women of color are really starting to get into the entrepreneurship, and they have been for years, but I mean, really, really hitting it hard right now, I feel like, right? I see so many more women of color at conferences that I saw even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's such a nice thing to have other women in this too, or just women, right? It's just nice to have women in these starting a business. Anytime you have a woman start a business.
No, I know a lot of my statistics are kind of primarily geared towards the US, but I did have a couple of interesting ones here too. South Asia, has less than 20% of female entrepreneurs. And women-owned and controlled enterprises created direct employment for about 27 million people in India. I thought that was pretty awesome. What else do I have here? 17% of Black women are in the process or starting to run a new business. And let's see, 14% of women-owned businesses employ between 11 and 50 plus workers. So we've got some things to celebrate here. Women are really starting to come into their own. It's so awesome to see. I also feel like the space I move in most frequently, we're seeing a lot more women support women. I came from a lot of years in the corporate world, and it wasn't always the case, but I think it's the women who are out there hustling and doing their thing. They don't have time for all that pettiness, maybe. And
Right.
they have a lot more time to encourage and support each other. I think, do you see that in your everyday
I
work?
I do see that, and I see it as a theme that runs through all businesses, right? That most women out there want to support most women entrepreneurs want to support other women entrepreneurs. It's not that case in an office, right? Because there
It's
is
not.
competition for jobs, and there's competition for seniority and all that other things that goes on. And honestly, that was what was going on when I was in a job that I hated. I
Mm-hmm.
hated that it was all, it's all about, it's all for one and one for all, right?
Yeah,
One for none, right?
right.
It was so competitive.
Yes. I worked with a woman, and I'm obviously not going to say her name, but she she had a couple of really bad habits. She liked to hoard information, so she was the only one out of our leadership team that had it. And number two, she would take, like, if she heard someone else talking about something, she would take that idea and present it as her own. And that that did not go over well in the workplace, I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah, and that happens a lot in corporate, right?
Yeah,
But as an entrepreneur, women are so eager to help other women. All women need is a hand up, right?
exactly.
They don't need a lot, but they're willing to share what they have with somebody else. And I do believe, and I do think that more entrepreneurs or women entrepreneurs are what goes around comes around, right?
Sure,
They
sure,
understand that more than most people.
sure. When I first started out, I worked in the insurance industry for a lot of years, and it's the good old boys club. The insurance industry is. I think it might still be. I haven't been in it for a few years now, but
Mhm.
it was that was what I butted up my head up against as a woman was the men seem to make a lot of their deals on the golf course, and I would get kind of ribbed and teased a little bit about, but from my co-agents in my district that, oh, I did this month, I did this month. They're talking about their production and all that. And, I was out until 8 or 9 o'clock, selling a life insurance policy, whatever. What were you doing last night? I'm like, well, I was home being a mom. I was home cooking dinner. I was home bathing the kids, helping with homework. Yeah. And I
So
bet you
my
have,
husband could be out on
yeah,
the golf course closing a
exactly.
deal, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I understand from our previous conversation that you work primarily with women. Why do you think that is? Do you think women are just more likely to reach out for help, or what do you think the
I,
reason is?
More women invest in themselves than men do, right? So
Interesting.
98% of my clients, and actually right now I'm trying to think, I don't think I have a male client right now. So I
Wow.
think at this particular moment, 100% of my clients are female. And it's because they are not, number one, they're not afraid to ask, right,
Mm-hmm.
for help. And
Mm-hmm.
number two, they will invest in themselves. And the statistic is really high. I can't remember what it is, but it's really high. I just heard it recently of how many women over men will invest in themselves,
Wow.
right? Men have
Wow.
this feeling that they have to do it all, right? They have
Yeah.
to, they can do it all.
Yeah.
So, and
Now,
women will ask.
now, do you see that being the same if we're going to break down? We've been doing a lot of celebrating Women's Day, but let's
Yeah.
do some hard truth here for a moment. Do you see a difference in age groups as far as like the willingness to reach out for help and follow through and all that? Do you see a difference in the age groups when it comes to that?
You know what? It's so funny is that I pull more women probably over 50, 55-ish. My
Mm-hmm.
oldest client is 72.
Wow,
Um, I actually have three clients in their 70s
that's
that are
awesome.
building huge businesses, right?
Wow,
They're
that's
out there
amazing.
yeah, and there's no stopping them. Like you said earlier, like when you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, and that's
Yeah,
how these women feel about their businesses.
Oh, that
And
is so awesome to hear.
you're working for success.
Because I talk to a lot of women who, get to that point of midlife and they're, they're kind of done raising the kids. Either they're older teenagers at home or, they've already left the nest. Maybe this woman has focused a lot on her career and now she's gotten to a point where she's kind of assessing life, and what do I want? What am I going to do with this part of my life? And a lot of them are pivoting. They're leaving jobs that they've had for a long time that they haven't been happy in. And, they're sticking their hat in the ring to own their own business.
That's kind of my story,
Is it?
right? It
Yeah.
is. Even though I've been an entrepreneur since I was 26 years old, when I turned 53, my youngest, I woke up, it was December 12th. I'll never forget it. December 12th, 2012. And it was my son's 21st birthday. And he kind of been a handful, right? Just really hard. Like he was the youngest, he was the hardest one to raise, always the one that got in trouble. And I woke up that morning and I realized I'm 53 years old. And if I don't start, let me say start, if I don't start going after what I want, I'm never going to get it, because at 53, chances are I'm not going to live to 106. So I am over middle age. And that was kind of a little gut punch right there to know that I'm over middle age, right? So,
yeah.
and I decided 2013 was going to be, I called it Gene Kuhn 2.0, where I literally recreated myself, recreated my businesses, and really went after the success that I had wanted all those years of being a mom, but I always put my kids first.
Oh my gosh, I love what you just said so much. I have goosebumps all over my legs. I love that so much. And and this is one of the reasons why I do this podcast is I want women to hear those stories of, come on, let's take a chance here.
Right.
You got less than half left. Let's just be real about it. And I'm like you. I one day we were talking about middle age or midlife or something like that, and we're like, well, what age is that exactly? Because I'm almost 53, and I know that I'm past that middle age point at this point. So
right. We call it in my group, we call it the second act. We're in our second act.
Oh, I love that.
Because there might be a third act. We don't know.
There could
right?
be. There
could be a third act. But we're in our second.
So, Jean, if you are going to again talk to this group of women and knowing that businesses do fail, and I think I'd heard at one point that within the first 5 years are the toughest. Mm-hmm. What do you think the top 3 reasons are that you see businesses fail?
Not enough cash flow, right? Not enough information, right? They don't know what they don't know. So, and that, right, and that would be my top 2. I'm just going to give it 2 because they don't have enough money when they start their business. They don't have enough money to cash flow what they need, their marketing, their collateral, they're setting up getting a simple website even, right? They start a business with $0 and they really don't want to invest to start with. They think that what they know will lead them to the golden riches. Sure. And there's really so much more than that, because it is expensive to run a business.
Sure.
Right. A successful business. And they have to have that, but also the piece there that they don't want to wait, it was cash flow. And what was the other one I said?
Lack of information. They don't know.
Lack of information, right? How do I go out and what's a lead generator, right? They don't know what a lead generator is if they're just starting, if they've not been in technology for a while. And I was never a technical person. I will tell you, YouTube is my best friend.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And it was all the technical pieces that I didn't know. The other day I was struggling with how to edit my WordPress website. Right, because I didn't understand Divi. That's kind of new that my web guy put together, and I couldn't get hold of him. I'm like, I have to figure this. I just went to YouTube and said, how do I edit a Divi WordPress website? And I edited my own website.
Oh my gosh, right? That's awesome. So, that's so awesome.
So they don't know what they don't know in order to move forward and keep money coming in. They don't know how to have a sales conversation. Right?
Yeah.
If you can't ask, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. You go ahead, finish your statement.
If you can't ask for the sale, nobody's going to just volunteer to work with you for the most part. That
Right.
doesn't
There aren't
come once
people
in a while.
knocking on your door saying, I want to do business with you. You
Right.
have to be willing to go after it. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So you were making me think when you were talking there that would you say networking is also a very big key factor in success for a woman in business or
Absolutely.
anybody in business that can include men as well? Because I
Yeah.
feel like I was so lucky when you said mentor earlier. You made me think of this woman who kind of took me under her wing. And so this is funny what I'm about to say, but I can be kind of shy sometimes. Here I am talking in front of the whole world, but I can be kind of shy sometimes. And this woman just took me under her wing. She introduced me to a whole bunch of people at the Chamber of Commerce events. And she just made me go out there and put my myself into the conversation, and she taught me a lot about asking questions and how important that is, and you never know who you're going to meet. And also, I mean, I'm going to let you talk about networking a little bit too, but also you got to be willing to give before you get.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. It's if you don't provide any value before you ask for a sale,
Hmm.
chances are that there's not going to be a sale. Right.
Absolutely.
It's all about how much more you can. I'm also a do you know the Go Giver?
I've heard of that.
The book, The Go Giver.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
also,
yeah.
yeah, I'm also a Go Giver certified coach. And I actually bought into the program just so I could, I've already been practicing, right? I'm a big Zig Ziglar follower.
Hmm.
And that was the one piece that Zig taught me first was, right, you have to give before you get.
Hmm.
And the more you give, the more you get.
Right.
So, but those principles are something that what he's got a saying, you can have anything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want, right?
I'm
And
very
since
familiar with that.
I
Yeah.
was 26 when I heard that,
Hmm.
right? And I have lived the rest of my life with that from that perspective.
Yeah.
If I can help you get what you want, I will never want for what I want.
That's exactly right. I love that. So, Jean, let's talk a little bit about your business and how do you help people? So, if someone's listening to us talking today and they're like, "Okay, this woman sounds amazing. She's got a lot of good information. How can she help me with my business?"
Do you have time for a quick story first
I
to
do.
kind of get into that?
Yeah.
So in 2001, no, 2001, 2002, I bought my very first bankrupt business, right? And most people, I always ask, how many of you are smart enough to buy not to buy a bankrupt business? And everybody raises their hand, right?
Right.
I didn't get that memo. So I bought a bankrupt business. I turned it around in 12 months. I added $100,000 to the bottom line, and it was a brick and mortar, right?
Okay.
So, and then 4 years later, I bought my second bankrupt business, and they were chocolate factories. So I thought, how hard could that possibly be, right?
Right.
Turns out it's a little harder than you might think. But so from there, everything I learned over the 16 years that I owned those two stores, I've taken and I literally broke it down into how I help my clients now, right? And there's four main principles. One is customer service,
Hmm.
sales,
Hmm.
marketing, and volunteering,
Oh.
right? Volunteering because it's about giving back, right? Adding value
Exactly.
to your community. Even if you're not a brick and mortar, you can still, if you're a home-based business, you can still add tons of value to your community. I have a friend who's a realtor in Ahwatukee, Arizona, and she has been woman of the year in her chamber, I don't know, multiple times, right? But here's the funny thing is they don't see her selling real estate at all, at all. But I could open up my Facebook page and see her daughters at the Humane Society every Saturday morning playing with puppies, right?
Mm.
And she'll show pictures of that. But it was her way of saying, I'm out in the community and I'm giving back in the community. Every Saturday morning, I bring my girls to, right? She doesn't say anything about real estate, but we all put that together.
Hmm.
Right? We all put that together. The more you give, the more you get.
I love that.
And she was really good about giving to her community.
Very good. Very nice.
I guess that's how I would say that.
Okay. Well, I love all of that. I love the idea of giving back. I know that so many of my listeners are wondering, where is what is my purpose? What is my passion? And I always tell them to think about the group that you would want to serve And, you can find a lot of purpose and passion within that. So that's so awesome that she's, training her daughters up she's modeling that behavior very early in life, right?
Oh, yeah. Her girls were like six. She has twins, like 6 years old when she started that. Right.
Nice.
Who doesn't want to see a 6-year-old playing and reading to a puppy? Are you kidding me?
Right. Oh,
And when I had my bankrupt business, or the chocolate factories, I started to volunteer on the business association board, right? And I chaired a summer art project that put me in front of every other business in town to sell the art project, right? So that they could put it, you know how those work, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So sorry, I have dogs.
It's okay. I have dogs too, and they've been so good. I'm so proud of them right now.
So I started volunteering on the board and became a board member and started volunteering on the board. And by nothing else, my sales went up 30% that year because the business owners got to know who I was. And because I would always bring them treats, right? When I had to go visit them, there was always caramel apples or chocolate dipped strawberries or something that I took with me. But also they started doing business with me too.
Yeah.
They started referring their clients over to me too.
Right.
So, and all I was out there doing was selling Adirondack chairs, right? For a summer art project.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so easy to do that. And some people, they won't take the time, right? Recently, I had given up the volunteering piece to just support a charity of my choice, right? I got busy and it was easier to write a check. I'm not going to lie. It was easier to write a check. And I just started donating to the Australian Cattle Dog Rescue, which is where my dogs came from.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. I love them.
I have to give my husband some credit here. He has always had such a huge heart for volunteering. And wasn't until after I met him, 10 years ago now, I guess, the company that he works for, we have gone and we've packed food boxes. We have gone to a church and helped clean out the, overgrown, weeded yard. We've helped paint numbers on the sidewalks, so the ambulances and fire trucks can find people's houses better. We've helped with the smoke detector projects. They go into neighborhoods and see if people have smoke detectors installed. And I got to tell you, Jean, every single thing that we've ever done, you don't walk away feeling like you wasted your time. Even on community trash pickup day, you don't feel like you wasted your time. You always feel better giving back to people. Always.
And you usually have a good time doing it, right?
Oh, yeah.
You might think, oh, gosh, I wish I didn't have to do that today. It's hot outside. But you had a good time while you were there. Is your husband a firefighter?
No, he works for the local utilities, the gas company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just all the things you said, I thought, well, maybe he was a fireman.
Right? No, but you know what? In some smaller communities, they do work hand in hand on some of those projects. So yeah.
That's very cool.
No, we took our kids, I think 2 or 3 times to like the food packing things, and we turned it into a competition. Like who could pack more, and we had a lot of fun with it. And it is good for kids to see their parents doing that kind of stuff. It sets a really good example.
And it's a good model.
It is.
Right. So they'll give back when they're older.
Yeah. So what's coming up next for Jean? What do you got going on in your business? What's next for you?
What's next is coming up in October. I have what I call the turnaround conference, and it all started right with turning around those 2 bankrupt businesses. Right. So it's kind of stuck with me. So it's really 3 days of business training where I'm helping entrepreneurs. What's your offer, right? What is right now? It's how are you staying in business right now? We don't know if we're in a recession or not, right? Nobody wants to say it because we're too close to the midterms. So nobody really wants to call that what it is, but we've been there for a while. How to stay in business during that. Because if you remember back to 2007, 2008, when we had our last R word, there a lot of businesses went out of business.
Sure.
Think back to when the pandemic started, right? And we were deemed non-essential workers, right? So many businesses went out of business. My goal in life is to keep business owners in business and help them increase their revenue, because 19 out of 20 small business owners do not make enough money, right? You would never know that because your neighbors and your friends all think if you're self-employed, you're totally rich.
Absolutely. And you have a lot of time freedom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So Jean, our time went really fast together today. Let's tell people where they can find you.
Well, they could find me at jeankuhn.com, JeanKuhn. And if they're interested in the turnaround conference, it's going to be in the Chicago area. And you're in the Chicago area too, right?
I'm not. I'm actually in Arizona.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Do you have a Chicago phone number?
You and I have a mutual friend, and him and I both
Okay.
were in with the same company back in Illinois.
Okay.
So that's probably why you put that together.
It is. It's exactly why I thought that you were in the Chicago area. So it's going to be live and in person because I'll tell you, I'm so over virtual.
I tell you what, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's time to start getting back and seeing people in person again.
Oh my gosh. For no other reason, just to hug somebody and smile at them, right?
Yes.
Get them outside their little box.
I think I've turned into a weirdo. I go into the grocery store now and I talk to random strangers. I just need to talk to some people. Oh, I love it. I'm sure
they appreciate that. I'm sure that they answer back.
Well, we have a lot of elderly people in our community. We have sort of a retirement community. And I think that, they're just lonely and they enjoy just having a little bit of silly conversation sometime. And I enjoy it too.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Jean, I'm going to end this with one last question today. It's a question I've been asking a lot of women lately because of the name of the podcast. What do you think women want today?
I think women want to live the second, and they want to go to their second act. Mm-hmm. Getting what they really wanted at the beginning of their first act.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. Oh my gosh.
And we don't take care of ourselves, right? We always, especially if you're a mom, you always put your family first, right? Yeah. And so many women don't then go on to finish up, don't go back to it.
Yeah.
And I think that if that would be one thing for women who really had dreams, it would be go back to your dreams that you had when you were 25 years old, 30 years old, and now create them, because the kids are gone and they're not in the way. And let's not spend our time missing them so much that we can't get on with our lives. Mm-hmm. Quite the opposite here.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. Jean, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with me today.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
So much. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. If you'd like to continue the conversation, come on over and join our private Facebook group, What Women Want Today. I'd love to hang out with you some more there. Any resources mentioned in today's episode will be in the show notes. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at What Women Want Today Podcast, or visit my website at whatwomenwanttoday.com. Please remember to subscribe, download, and share. Leave me a review. It helps other amazing women find the show and become a member of our community. One last thing for you today. You are not alone. You are worthy of love and a fulfilled life. Now it's time to go after it.